Reborn one day before the world order changed forever, I thought I was about to hold destiny in my hands and step onto the peak of history. Instead, I opened my eyes to find myself in the presidential suite of a five-star hotel, lying next to a stunning female CEO whose expression was colder than a New York winter. I was completely broke, my pockets cleaner than my face, and my phone had long since died. I cleared my throat and tested the waters. So beautiful. The service fee for last night is $500. Cash or Venmo. No credit. My head was splitting. Caleb Vance bolted upright from the soft king-size mattress, the unfamiliar ceiling and the faint scent of expensive perfume causing his brain to crash for 3 seconds. This wasn't his $300-a-month basement apartment where he was afraid to roll over for fear of falling out of bed. This was a hotel. He looked down, realized he was shirtless, and saw the silhouette of a woman under the duvet next to him. Her raven hair fanned out across half the pillow. Fragments of memory flooded back like a tidal wave. The graduation party, drinking until he blacked out, being carried off by classmates. And then, Caleb pounded his head, and suddenly, a jolt ran through him as everything connected. Wait, didn't he drink himself to death after that party? He had died of alcohol poisoning in that cramped apartment, becoming a tragic joke among his college alumni. He remembered the icy sensation of life draining away, the unwillingness to go, the regret. He had been reborn. He was back 10 years in the past, on the very day that would change his fate and the destiny of the world. Caleb threw off the covers and rushed into the bathroom. Staring at the mirror, he saw a face 10 years younger, hungover and haggard, yes, but full of collagen and youth. He was so excited he almost screamed. God had given him a do-over. He remembered that at exactly 2 p.m. today, a virtual reality game called Genesis would launch globally. Initially ignored, a week later it would be confirmed that in-game gold could be exchanged one-to-one for real currency, and eventually, the game's technology and skills could be brought back into reality. The world order would be completely rewritten. In his past life, he missed the window of opportunity, living in poverty while watching others ride the wind to success. This time, he would seize the initiative. He would be the one on top. As his excitement settled, Caleb remembered there was someone else in the room. He tiptoed back to the bed. The woman under the covers seemed disturbed by his movement and gently turned over. A flawless, sleeping face came into view. Her features were exquisite, like God's most perfect sculpture. Fair skin, long eyelashes trembling slightly. Even in sleep, she radiated an aura of unapproachable coldness. Caleb's pupils dilated. He knew this face. Victoria Sterling. In the next 10 years, she would become the legendary Ice Queen of American business. The sterling capital she founded would stir global markets. She was an existence countless people looked up to. In his past life, Caleb had only seen her on the covers of Forbes and Fortune. Rumors said she was cold, uninterested in men, and remained unmarried all her life. A flower on a high peak that no one could pluck. But now this high peak flower was lying right next to him. So, the first thing he did after being reborn was have an indescribable night with a future billionaire CEO. This script wasn't a bit too intense. Caleb felt his throat go dry. He started looking for his clothes and phone. He found his clothes, wrinkled and thrown on the sofa. He found his phone. The screen was black, obviously dead. His wallet contained only a few crumpled bills and his driver's license. Disaster. His starting capital was zero. He didn't even have enough money to buy the VR headset. He couldn't exactly tell this future titan of industry, "Hey, lend me some cash. I need to go save the world," could he? She'd probably have him committed to a psych ward. Just then, Victoria Sterling slowly opened her eyes. Her gaze was momentarily confused, but instantly sharpened like a knife. She sat up, the duvet slipping to reveal a shoulder as white as snow. She looked at Caleb, then at the messy bed, and a layer of frost instantly covered her beautiful face. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Who are you?" Her voice was as cold as her expression, devoid of emotion. Caleb froze. What should he say? "I'm your future fan?" Or, "We just made a mistake that happens in Vegas?" Looking at Victoria's gaze, which could freeze a man to death, Caleb knew any explanation would sound pathetic. He decided to double down on the absurdity. He cleared his throat, trying to look professional, plastering on a fake customer service smile. "So beautiful. The overnight fee is $500. Friends and family discount. Do you prefer Cash App or Zelle? Store policy says no credit." The air turned dead silent. Victoria's expression solidified. In her eyes, which were usually calm as an ancient well, Emotions named shock and absurdity appeared for the first time. She had met countless men, sycophants, ambitious climbers, men pretending to be deep, but she had never met a man who, after spending the night with her, asked her for money. And worse, he was treating himself like a gigolo. An unprecedented sense of ridiculousness welled up in her heart. Victoria was almost angered into laughing, the corner of her mouth hooking up in a chilly arc. What did you say? Say that again. I said, overnight fee, 500. Caleb repeated it, biting the bullet, his heart drumming. It was a desperate move, but he had to get startup capital somehow. Judging by her lifestyle, she wouldn't miss the money. Suddenly, a rapid ringtone broke the bizarre standoff. Victoria pulled her phone from under the pillow, glanced at the caller ID, and frowned deeply. She answered, her voice instantly returning to its usual calm authority. Yes, Elena. What? The Thorne family is already there? Grandfather is there too. Understand. I'm coming over immediately. Hanging up, Victoria's face looked terrible. She threw off the covers and got out of bed, putting on her clothes right in front of Caleb without a hint of shyness. Her perfect curves made Caleb instinctively avert his eyes. Once dressed, Victoria transformed back into the aloof corporate queen. She walked up to Caleb, pulled a stack of cash from her purse, and threw it on the table without counting. Here's 2,000. Is that enough? Caleb stared at the thick stack of bills, his eyes straightening. Enough? It was more than enough. He could buy the premium headset with this. Just as he reached for it, Victoria suddenly spoke. Wait. Her gaze swept over Caleb, assessing him like she was evaluating the worth of a commodity. What is your name? Where are you from? Who is your family? Caleb paused, answering honestly. Caleb Vance. Local. Parents are gone. I'm alone. Hearing the word alone, a flicker of undetectable emotion passed through Victoria's eyes. She stared at Caleb for a full 30 seconds, seeming to make a monumental decision. Come with me to a place, she said in a tone that brooked no argument. Huh? Where? Caleb was confused. City Hall. Spit take. Caleb almost choked on his own saliva. Lady, you're gorgeous, but we just met. Isn't this moving a little fast? I just wanted an overnight fee. I didn't ask you to take responsibility. A vein throbbed on Victoria's temple. She took a deep breath, suppressing her anger, and explained coldly. I need a husband. A contract husband. Today. Right now. Immediately. I need you to act out a scene with me and sign a contract. Once it's done, the $100,000 on this card is yours. After marriage, I'll give you a $10,000 monthly stipend. We only need to be husband and wife legally. We will not interfere in each other's private lives. In 1 year, we divorce, and I will give you another settlement. 100,000? 10 grand a month. Caleb felt dizzy, hit by a giant pie falling from the sky. Wasn't this better than grinding for gold in the game? This was instant winning at life. He looked at Victoria's serious expression and swallowed. Why me? Because you're clean, Victoria replied concisely. You have no background, no powerful family, and you won't bring me any trouble. And, she paused, a hint of mockery in her eyes. You love money, don't you? Problems that can be solved with money are not problems to me. Caleb was speechless. Okay, he admitted it. He loved money. Who wouldn't, after being that poor? What are the terms? What do I need to do? Caleb quickly got into character. Simple. Play the role of my husband. Appear by my side when I need you. The rest of the time, do whatever you want. Victoria pulled a prepared agreement from her bag and handed it to him. Caleb scanned it. The terms were clear, rights and responsibilities defined. For him, the party bee, it was a steal. Deal. I'm in. Caleb slapped the table decisively. Only an idiot turns down easy money. Solve survival first, then conquer the game world. Victoria seemed to have expected his agreement. She nodded and turned to leave. Bring your ID. My car is downstairs. I'll give you 10 minutes. Clean yourself up and follow me. Caleb frantically threw on his clothes, shoved the $2,000 cash in his pocket, glanced at the bank card on the table, but ultimately didn't take it yet. A gentleman loves money, but he gets it the right way. The act hadn't started yet. How could he take the payment? That was professional integrity, even if he wasn't exactly a legitimate actor. 30 minutes later, outside the city clerk's office at City Hall, Caleb and Victoria stood side by side, each holding a marriage certificate folder, their expressions a bit dazed. Just like that. Married? After leaving the hotel, Victoria's assistant had been waiting downstairs, efficiently handing over all necessary paperwork. They drove straight to City Hall in silence. Photos, forms, signatures, seals, all done in one go. The clerk looked at the handsome couple, the man looking like he was in a dream, the woman looking like an ice sculpture, and assumed they were a young couple forced into a shotgun wedding by their parents. She even offered advice. Marriage requires mutual respect and love. Arguments happen, but you work through them. Victoria's face grew colder. Caleb could only offer an awkward, apologetic smile. Get in. Victoria walked toward a Bentley parked at the curb. Where are we going now? Caleb sat in the passenger seat, feeling the comfort of the leather, and couldn't help asking. To see my grandfather, and to sign a contract. Victoria started the car, her voice chilly. Remember, from now on, you're my husband, Caleb Vance. We fell in love naturally and are compatible. No matter what anyone says later, do not speak out of turn. I will handle everything. Understood, boss. Caleb made an okay sign. Don't call me boss. Okay, wifey. Victoria's hand on the steering wheel tightened, and the car swerved slightly. She glared at Caleb through the rearview mirror, her eyes saying, try calling me that again and see what happens. Caleb shut up immediately, but he was laughing inside. Teasing the Ice Queen CEO was surprisingly thrilling. The car stopped in front of a majestic skyscraper in Manhattan. Victoria led Caleb straight to the top-floor conference room. Pushing open the doors, a massive table was already seated with people. At the head sat a spirited old man with natural authority, Arthur Sterling, chairman of the Sterling Group and Victoria's grandfather. On the other side sat a young man with slick back hair, legs crossed, looking arrogant. Next to him was a middle-aged man, presumably his father. Caleb recognized the young man, Julian Thorne, the trust fund heir of the Thorne family. In his past life, Julian was Victoria's business nemesis, constantly harassing her until he was eventually jailed for commercial fraud. When Victoria entered, everyone's gaze snapped to her. When they saw Caleb following her, expressions varied. Arthur Sterling frowned, clearly displeased. Julian Thorne stood up directly, pointing at Caleb with a frivolous tone. Victoria, who is this? Your new driver or bodyguard? Dressed so shabbily. Don't lower the class of our Sterling Group. Caleb looked down at himself. His outfit cost less than $50 total. Amidst these elites in tailored suits, he did stick out like a sore thumb. Victoria ignored Julian's provocation. She walked straight to Arthur, placing the marriage certificate on the table. Grandfather, I'm married. This is my husband, Caleb Vance. The sentence was like a bomb dropped into a calm lake. The entire conference room went dead silent. Arthur picked up the certificate, glanced at it, and his face turned iron gray. He slammed his hand on the table. This is nonsense. Do you know what date it is? You just grabbed some random person to marry? Where do you place the Sterling family's dignity? Julian laughed so hard he leaned back. Married? Victoria, are you serious? Even if you want to reject me, you didn't have to find a loser like this as a shield, right? Does this guy even have $20 in his pocket? You're degrading yourself. Victoria's beautiful face was frosted over. She looked coldly at Julian. Who I marry is my freedom. It's not your place to comment. You should worry about your own affairs, Mr. Thorne. She turned to Arthur, her voice firm. Grandfather, you said before that as long as I'm married, the South Waterfront project would be fully handed over to me. Now I've done it. Arthur was too angry to speak, pointing a shaking finger at Victoria. Julian's father, Marcus Thorne, the chairman of Thorne Enterprises, stepped in with fake diplomacy. Arthur, don't be angry. Young people are impulsive. But Victoria, my niece, marriage isn't a game. This, Mr. Vance, I assume. Which family is he from? What does he do? Everyone's eyes focused on Caleb, full of scrutiny and disdain. Victoria was about to speak, but Caleb beat her to it. He smiled slightly, neither humble nor arrogant. I don't have a prominent family background. Just a regular guy, currently unemployed, preparing to start a small business. His frankness choked back the insults Marcus had prepared. But Julian wouldn't let it go, sneering. Small business? Selling hot dogs? Or delivering Uber Eats? Kid, I advise you to have some self-awareness. The Sterling family's door isn't one you can enter. How much did she pay you? 10 grand? 20? Take the money and get lost. Don't embarrass yourself here. Before Caleb could retort, Victoria shouted coldly. Julian, shut your mouth. He's my husband. Insulting him is insulting me. Seeing Victoria defend Caleb so fiercely, Julian's face turned incredibly ugly, flames of jealousy burning in his eyes. Just then, the conference room doors opened, and a middle-aged man in a suit walked in. It was Mr. Harrison, the representative for the South Waterfront Project Partnership. Apologies, everyone. I'm late, Mr. Harrison said apologetically. Mr. Harrison, please sit. Marcus Thorne greeted him warmly. The negotiation formally began. Julian pulled out a meticulously prepared proposal and began eloquently introducing Thorne Enterprises' plan, promising the moon and stars. Victoria also presented her plan. While solid, It appeared conservative compared to Julian's flashy proposal. After listening, Mr. Harrison looked conflicted, clearly hesitating. Seeing this, Julian glanced triumphantly at Victoria, then sneered at the silent Caleb. See, Victoria? Professional matters should be left to professionals. Bringing a pretty boy here just to anger your grandfather. What use is he? Victoria's face was grim. She knew she might lose this negotiation. Suddenly, Caleb, who had been silent, coughed lightly. Everyone looked at him. Caleb seemed not to notice the stares, muttering to himself just loud enough to be heard. Strange. Didn't the City Planning Commission release a zoning amendment 3 months ago stating that to protect the wetland ecology near the south waterfront, no commercial buildings over 50 meters are allowed within a 3-mile radius for the next 3 years? Why does this plan have an 80-story commercial center? His voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet room, it reached everyone's ears clearly. Mr. Harrison's face went pale instantly. Julian's expression froze, as if someone had dumped a bucket of ice water on him. Victoria whipped her head around to look at Caleb, her eyes full of shock. That news had been posted in an obscure corner of a municipal website 3 months ago. Because it didn't involve the core business district, almost no one noticed it. Her own team had only dug it up 2 days ago after exhaustive research. Julian's team had clearly missed this fatal detail. But Caleb, this man she thought was just a broke nobody. How'd he know? You're talking nonsense. What zoning amendment? I never heard of it. Julian shouted, trying to mask his panic with aggression. But Mr. Harrison had already pulled out his phone and was searching rapidly. Seconds later, his face turned grim. He looked up, staring coldly at Julian. Mr. Thorne, I think you owe me an explanation. If Mr. Vance hadn't reminded us, and my company invested based on your proposal, we would have lost everything. Is this how Thorne Enterprises treats its partners? Marcus Thorne's face turned white. He glared viciously at Julian and stood up to apologize. Mr. Harrison, it's a misunderstanding. Absolute misunderstanding. It was an oversight by our team. No need to explain. Mr. Harrison waved his hand and turned directly to Victoria. Ms. Sterling, let's go with your proposal. Your company's diligence and responsibility have earned our trust. We can sign the contract today. Victoria suppressed the storm in her heart, stood up, and extended her hand with a smile. Mr. Harrison, it's a pleasure doing business. A negotiation that was destined to be lost had been instantly turned around by a casual remark from Caleb. The Thornes left the conference room in disgrace. Before leaving, Julian shot a look at Caleb filled with venomous hatred. Only the Sterling family and Caleb remained. Arthur Sterling looked at Caleb, his gaze complex. He had thought this guy was just a shield his granddaughter found, but it seemed he had some substance. How did you know about that planning document? Arthur asked in a low voice. Caleb scratched his head, putting on a simple, honest grin. Oh, I like reading the news online. I read all sorts of random stuff. I just happened to see it a while back and remembered it. Bullshit. Both Arthur and Victoria thought the same thing. But they couldn't find another reason. It wasn't like he could predict the future, right? Fine. A very convenient happened to see it. Arthur gave Caleb a deep look. Victoria, since you're married, the South Waterfront project is yours. But I want to see results. If you screw this up, both of you, get out of the Sterling family. With that, Arthur left, leaning on his cane. In a massive conference room, only Caleb and Victoria remained. Victoria walked up to Caleb, her icy eyes staring him down, trying to see through him. Who are you, really? Your husband, Caleb replied with a cheeky grin. Don't play games with me. Victoria's voice held a trace of suppressed anger and confusion. Don't tell me you really just saw it on the news. My professional team took days to find that obscure municipal file. Then I guess I just have good luck. Caleb shrugged, acting like a dead pig unafraid of boiling water. He couldn't exactly say he was a time traveler. Victoria watched his roguish behavior, her chest heaving with anger. She realized that her prideful calm and logic were easily shattered in front of this man. She took a deep breath and squeezed out a sentence through gritted teeth. Come home with me. Victoria's home was a penthouse in one of Manhattan's most exclusive buildings. When Caleb stood with his battered suitcase, containing only a few changes of clothes, in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline, he once again felt the disparity of the world. I'll just take the guest room downstairs, Caleb said with self-awareness. No, Victoria refused coldly. Starting today, you sleep in my master bedroom. Huh? Caleb was confused. Is that appropriate? We're a contract marriage. Didn't we agree not to interfere with each other? Grandfather has people watching us. Victoria explained concisely. Until we divorce, we must appear to be a normal couple. Looking at Victoria's face, which clearly read, "Ask one more question, and I'll kill you," Caleb wisely shut his mouth. Fine, stay then. The bed was huge. He could sleep on the floor if needed. Walking into Victoria's bedroom, Caleb was shocked again. This wasn't a bedroom. It was bigger than his entire apartment in his past life. Massive windows, a walk-in closet, and a luxury bathroom with a jacuzzi. Put your things over there. Victoria pointed to a corner. Caleb placed his broken suitcase there. It looked comically out of place amidst the luxury. I've redrafted the agreement. Victoria handed him a new document. Given your performance today, I've added a clause. During the marriage, you will serve as my special consultant. Annual salary, $500,000. The $100,000 we discussed earlier has been transferred to you as an advance. She tapped on her phone. Moments later, Caleb's phone buzzed with a notification. Your account, ending in XXXX, has received a deposit of $100,000. Staring at the zeros, Caleb's heart pounded traitorously. He swallowed and looked at Victoria. Why? I need your luck. Victoria said straightforwardly. I don't care if it's really luck or if you have some channel I don't know about. I only care about results. As long as you can help me, money is not a problem. Caleb understood. This Ice Queen was a thorough pragmatist. His move today showed her his utility. Deal. Caleb dropped the cheeky expression and nodded seriously. Here are your keys and the key card. Victoria tossed him a set. The housekeeper handles meals. You are not allowed to bring outsiders here without my permission. Also, stay away from my closet and study. With that, she took her files and went into the study, leaving Caleb alone in the gigantic bedroom. Caleb lay on the incredibly expensive mattress, staring at the ceiling, feeling like he was dreaming. Reborn on day one. Flash married a gorgeous CEO and became a 100,000-aire. This life was too surreal, but he hadn't forgotten his main mission. He pulled out his phone and immediately searched for the Genesis VR headset release info. Official store price $1,999. Limited global release at 2:00 p.m. today. He checked the time. 12:00 p.m. Plenty of time. He placed the order immediately. With the most important thing done, Caleb's stomach growled. He walked out of the bedroom. A housekeeper in an apron was cleaning. Mr. Vance, lunch is ready, she said somewhat timidly. Thanks, just call me Caleb, he smiled. The table was set with gourmet dishes that looked like art. Caleb didn't stand on ceremony, devouring the food. He was starving. Halfway through, Victoria walked out of the study holding a stack of files. Seeing Caleb eating like a starving ghost, her brows furrowed. Watch your image when you eat. I'm hungry, Caleb mumbled through a mouthful of food. By the way, wifey, can I go out this afternoon? Victoria's face grew 3 degrees colder. First, don't call me wifey. Second, what for? I bought something. Need to pick up the package. Victoria didn't say anything else, implying consent. At 2 p.m., Caleb arrived at a courier center downtown. He picked up the massive box stamped with the Genesis logo, feeling incredibly excited. He hugged the box and took a cab back to the penthouse. As he entered, he saw Victoria sitting on the living room sofa, seemingly waiting for him. What did you buy? She asked, eyeing the huge box. A gaming headset, Caleb answered honestly. A gaming headset? A trace of disdain flashed in Victoria's eyes. You took the 100,000 and bought a toy. In her view, gaming was a waste of time, something for children. This isn't an ordinary game. Caleb smiled mysteriously. Wifey, trust me. Soon, you'll know that what I bought today isn't a game console, but a money-printing machine. Slick talker, Victoria scoffed and ignored him. Caleb carried the headset back to the bedroom excitedly. Power on, headset on. Welcome to Genesis. Iris scan in progress. Identity binding. Caleb Vance. Please choose your class. The familiar interface appeared. In his past life, he chose the popular swordsman. This time, he unhesitatingly chose the least popular, most expensive in the early game, but ultimately invincible class, mechanic. Entering the game, the beginner village was packed. Caleb didn't fight for monsters. He went straight to the most remote corner of the village and found a ragged NPC hammering iron. Old Hans the blacksmith. In his past life, everyone thought this was just a generic quest NPC. It wasn't until 3 years later that a player discovered Old Hans was a legendary, god-tier mechanic. To trigger his hidden quest, you just had to hand him a bottle of the cheapest lager while he was working. Caleb took the system-gifted lager from his inventory and handed it over respectfully. Master, you've worked hard. Have a drink. Old Hans looked up, his cloudy eyes glancing at Caleb. He took the beer and downed it in one gulp. Ha, good booze. Young man, you have a good eye. I happen to need an assistant. Are you willing to stay and help me? Ding. Congratulations, player Caleb Vance. Hidden quest, Legacy of the God Artisan, triggered. Accept. Caleb was ecstatic. From today on, he would be the only king of this game world. For the next few days, Caleb was completely addicted to the game. By day, he helped Old Hans forge, mine, and learn mechanical blueprints. By night, he grinded monsters for materials. Victoria, meanwhile, was busy off her feet. The South Waterfront project had launched, involving a million details. She worked late every night. Though under the same roof, they barely spoke 10 words a day. One night, Victoria dragged her exhausted body back to the bedroom to find Caleb absent. She frowned, walked to the bed, and found him wearing that strange helmet, lying motionless, muttering. Left hook, right hook. Beautiful. Another part secured. Victoria's mouth twitched. This man really was treating a game like a career. She shook her head and went into the bathroom. By the time she showered and came out, Caleb had taken off the helmet and was fiddling with something on his laptop. What are you doing? Victoria asked while towel drying her hair. Oh, selling some stuff? Caleb said without turning around. Curious, Victoria leaned over to look. On the screen was a gaming transaction platform. Caleb was listing an item called Basic Energy Core. Price, $10,000. Are you crazy? Victoria exclaimed. $10,000 for a game item? Who would buy that? They will, Caleb smiled confidently. The energy core he crafted was unique in the game right now. It provided extra energy to mechanical gear, massively boosting attack power. For the whale players who wanted maximum output, 10 grand was chump change. Sure enough, less than 5 minutes after listing, the basic energy core was snatched up. Immediately, his direct messages exploded. Boss, do you have more cores? I'll pay 15,000. 20,000. Sell to me. I run a guild. God Gamer, carry me please. I'm an e-girl. Caleb grinned from ear to ear, reading the messages. Victoria stood there, utterly stunned. She couldn't comprehend how a virtual item could sell for more than the monthly profit of one of her operational teams. Was the world crazy, or was this man crazy? Now do you still think I'm wasting my time? Caleb turned, looking at her smugly. Victoria opened her mouth, but couldn't say a word. Her worldview was being dismantled by this man, piece by piece. Over the next 2 weeks, Caleb made nearly $5 million selling rare materials and gear. He went from broke to a bona fide millionaire. Meanwhile, Victoria's South Waterfront project was hitting a wall. Her rival, Julian Thorne, had secured a massive amount of funding from somewhere and began sniping her in the raw materials market. Whatever building materials Victoria needed, he bought at a premium, causing her procurement costs to skyrocket. Her project budget developed a gaping hole. That night, Victoria sat in the study staring at spreadsheets, brow furrowed. Caleb walked in with a glass of hot milk. Still working? MH. Victoria rubbed her temples, not looking at him. Trouble. Caleb placed the milk near her hand. Victoria hesitated, then explained the situation. She didn't know why she was telling him. Perhaps living together had made her subconsciously view him as someone she could talk to. Caleb listened and laughed. I thought it was something huge. Just a money problem. He took out his phone and, right in front of her, transferred $5 million to her account. Yep. Victoria froze. Take it. Consider it my investment, Caleb said nonchalantly. The money is just sitting there anyway. Victoria stared at the transfer notification, her emotions a mess. 2 weeks ago, she threw $100,000 at him to be a fake husband. 2 weeks later, he was using $5 million to bail out her business. The role reversal made her feel an unprecedented absurdity and a strange warmth. Why help me? She looked up at him. You're my wifey, Caleb grinned. Husband helping wife is the law of nature. Victoria's heart skipped a beat for no reason. She turned away to hide the flush on her cheeks, speaking coldly. This is a loan. I will pay it back. Whatever. Caleb shrugged and left the study. Watching his back, Victoria picked up the warm milk and took a sip. Sweet. With Caleb's cash injection, the pressure eased, but Julian's offensive grew fiercer. He seemed convinced Victoria was low on funds and kept inflating prices, determined to bleed her dry. Industry insiders were waiting for Victoria to fail. Just when everyone thought she would fold, a piece of earth-shattering news detonated globally. Genesis officials announced that in-game gold could now be exchanged one-to-one for real currency. The game world went insane. Gold prices skyrocketed, and Caleb, the biggest material hoarder and gear merchant in the game, held a stash of gold that amounted to an astronomical figure. He immediately liquidated half his holdings, cashing out $50 million. When Victoria saw the string of zeros in Caleb's bank account, she was numb. She felt the worldview she had built over 20 years crumble into dust. Business genius? Capital queen? Compared to this man who made a fortune playing games, she was a joke. Is the money enough now? Caleb asked with a smile. Victoria was silent. What could she say? With his terrifying war chest, Julian Thorne's maneuvers looked like a clown's performance. Victoria launched a counterattack. You raise the price? I'll raise it higher. You hoard stock? I'll buy the entire market. Within days, Julian realized he hadn't dragged Victoria down. Instead, he had tied up all his company's liquid assets in overpriced materials. Then, because Victoria stopped buying, the material market prices collapsed. Thorne Enterprises instantly fell into a massive financial crisis. Marcus Thorne was frantic. He dragged Julian to the Sterling penthouse to beg Arthur Sterling for mercy. In the living room, Julian had lost his arrogance, standing pale-faced. Arthur, for the sake of our years of friendship, please ask Victoria to have mercy. The Thorne family. We surrender. Arthur didn't speak, looking instead at Victoria and Caleb, sitting nearby. Victoria was expressionless. Caleb was leisurely peeling an apple, as if none of this concerned him. Julian watched Caleb's relaxed demeanor, hatred and jealousy spilling over. He blamed all his failures on this man who appeared out of nowhere. He suddenly rushed at Caleb, screaming red-eyed, "It's all you. If not for you, useless trash, how would I lose? What sort of black magic did you use?" Caleb stopped peeling the apple. He lifted his eyelids, glanced at Julian, and said indifferently, "If you lose, accept it. Blaming others is what the weak do." He handed the peeled apple to Victoria. She took it naturally and took a small bite. This intimate gesture snapped the last string of Julian's sanity. "I won't accept it. Victoria, you're driving the Thorne family to extinction for this pretty boy. Business is war. Win or lose on your own merits." Victoria replied coldly. "When you were sniping me, you didn't plan on leaving me a way out." Seeing no hope, Julian snapped completely. He pulled a fruit knife from his pocket and lunged at Caleb. "If I die, you're not living either." Everyone froze. Victoria turned pale, instinctively moving to shield Caleb. However, Caleb was faster. He sidestepped, easily dodging the knife, flipped his wrist, locked onto Julian's arm, and twisted hard. Crack! "Arr!" Julian screamed as the knife clattered to the floor. Caleb shoved him back, sending him sprawling. The whole sequence was fluid as water, fast as lightning. The living room was deadly silent. Everyone looked at Caleb like he was a monster. Wasn't he a shut-in gamer? How'd he have those moves? Caleb clapped his hands as if dusting off a minor nuisance. He looked at Julian wailing on the floor and shook his head. Rage born of humiliation is the final cry of the incompetent. Police arrived quickly, taking Julian away for assault with a deadly weapon. The Thorne family was finished. After the storm, the atmosphere in the Sterling house shifted. Arthur looked at Caleb not with scrutiny, but with appreciation. And Victoria, her gaze toward Caleb became increasingly complex. This man was a puzzle. You think he's broke? He pulls out millions. You think he's lucky? He predicts market trends. You think he's a weak nerd? He takes down an armed attacker without sweating. How many secrets did he have? That night in the bedroom, Victoria came out of the shower to see Caleb putting on the helmet again. She didn't scoff like before. Instead, she sat quietly on the edge of the bed, watching him. After a long while, Caleb took off the helmet and saw her. "What's wrong? Why are you staring at me?" "Caleb," Victoria's voice was soft. "We are still a contract marriage, right?" "Of course." Caleb nodded. "The agreement is clear. We divorce in a year." Hearing this, a wave of disappointment inexplicably washed over Victoria. She fell silent for a moment, then suddenly asked, "What if I said I didn't want a divorce anymore?" Caleb froze. He looked at Victoria. Under the warm light, her usually icy face showed a rare flush of shyness. Her cool eyes shimmered with a light he couldn't quite read. You're joking, right?" Caleb asked uncertainly. "I never joke." Caleb's heart was in chaos too. Did he have feelings for Victoria? Of course. Having such a stunning woman sleep next to him every night, even doing nothing, was enough to make any man's heart race. Moreover, watching her focus on work, her resilience against trouble, and her occasional exhaustion, he had stopped seeing her as just a cold business partner long ago. But they started as a transaction. "Give me some time to think." Caleb didn't answer immediately. Victoria nodded, said nothing more, and lay down with her back to him. That night, neither of them slept. The next day, an unexpected person sought out Caleb. It was Arthur Sterling. The old man invited him to a classic tea house. Caleb, Arthur poured him a cup personally. I know about you and Victoria. Grandfather, no need to explain. Arthur waved his hand. I'm not here to scold you. I just want to ask one thing. Are you sincere about Victoria? Caleb was silent. That child, Victoria, has carried too much since she was little. Her mother died early. I pinned all my hopes on her, forcing her to learn management finance, molding her into the perfect heir. But she lost the joy of childhood, lost the right to fall in love like a normal girl. She looks strong and cold on the outside, but inside she is more fragile than anyone, craving warmth. Over the years, I introduced her to many young elites, but she liked none of them. I could tell. They didn't love her. They loved her status, the sterling fortune. Arthur sighed, his eyes full of guilt and love. Until you appeared. You are different from them. You don't fear her. You don't flatter her. You even dare to act like a rascal with her. You treat her like a normal woman. I can see that when she is with you, she is relaxed. She smiles. She hasn't smiled like that in a long time. So, Caleb, if you are sincere, treat her well. The Sterling family will not mistreat you. But if you're just playing, then please, take the money and leave her. Do not hurt her. The old man's words hit Caleb's heart like a hammer. He thought of Victoria's rare moments of vulnerability, her satisfied expression eating his cooking, her unhesitating move to shield him from the knife. Yes, peel away the Ice Queen shell, and she was just a woman longing to be loved and protected. And him, reborn in this life, was it really just for money and fame? Grandfather, I understand. Caleb stood up and bowed deeply to Arthur. I love her. I will spend my life treating her well. A relieved smile appeared on Arthur's face. Leaving the tea house, Caleb immediately called Victoria. Where are you? I'm coming to find you. The office. Caleb took a cab straight to the Sterling Capitol building. He bought a massive bouquet of red roses and, under the shocked gazes of the staff, walked straight into the CEO's office. Victoria was in a meeting. Seeing Caleb enter with flowers, she froze. You? Caleb didn't speak. He walked straight to her, dropped to one knee, and held the roses out. Ms. Victoria Sterling, right now, as Caleb Vance, not your contract husband, I am proposing to you again. I admit, at the start, it was for the money. But now, I've fallen in love with you. I love how you look when you work and how you are in life. I love your strong shell, and I ache for your fragile heart. So, are you willing to marry this man who, aside from money, is also very interesting? Will you let me take care of you for a lifetime? The conference room was dead silent. All the executives stared, slack-jawed, at this scene straight out of a romance movie. Victoria's eyes reddened instantly, looking at Caleb on one knee, seeing the hot, sincere emotion in his eyes. The ice that had sealed her heart for over 20 years completely melted. She reached out and took the roses. Ido. Bonus scene. After a grand wedding, Caleb and Victoria went to a private island for their honeymoon. At night, they embraced on the beach, watching the stars. It feels like a dream, Victoria whispered, leaning into Caleb's chest. Yeah, Caleb tightened his arms around her. Wifey, I've got you from now on. Just then, Caleb's phone rang. It was an unknown number. He wanted to decline it, but some ghost in the machine made him answer. A crisp woman's voice, carrying a hint of mockery, came from the other end. Is this Caleb Vance? It is. Who is this? Ah, you don't remember me? Makes sense. After all, in your past life, we were just strangers drinking on a rooftop together. Caleb's pupils constricted violently. The blood in his body seemed to freeze in an instant. The woman on the phone continued. Don't be so nervous. I just wanted to say, welcome back to our era. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Bianca Moon. We will meet very soon. Like and subscribe. If this gets over 100 likes, I will continue this as a full novel. Story complete.